Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I am here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's a beautiful day because Aston Villa are going on a European tour. Aston Villa 2, Brighton 1. Talk to me, Dan. How are you feeling?
Just amazing, mate. Just amazing. The best and worst 90 minutes of my life simultaneously. I don't think I've ever really felt just those two conflicting emotions on that
Yeah.
level. Do you know what I mean? We went into the ground and I had a pint and a Balti pie before the game. I think because of the nerves in my stomach, it just sat about here 90 minutes. It's just sat in my chest, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I felt absolutely dreadful. But just the euphoria, really, of full time made it just so worthwhile.
Special, mate. The days like this are special because, you know, like sort of coming into this game, this, the magnitude of it's huge. It was totally in our hands. And despite feeling so confident for the longest time, I couldn't shake the nerves. It it felt like a monumentous challenge that we may not have even been able to have conquered, pre-game. And speaking to my old man about it, and he was saying, "Look, there's no before the game. This was like, look, there's no reason to get stressed. Like we've got this. This is in our hands." And he was right. But I guess it kind of like it's a generational thing, right? Because our parents will have witnessed Villa lift the European Cup. I know your dad was there for it, Dan. Your dad was in Rotterdam. Your dad has witnessed the greatness right in front of him. And obviously, our parents will have seen, and many of the listeners who listen to this, because we do have a lot of older listeners, without offending anybody, the demographics say you're old, so I'm sorry. But a lot of people who'll be watching this podcast right now will have seen us win the League Cup. So what have we've had an Intertoto Cup, mate. That's
Yeah.
and that don't even really compute for me. Um, don't you think I wanted to ask you, did this game, did you feel like this coming into the playoff final?
Um. I was sort of having this conversation on the way back from the game, and I just think that I was like, wow, this might be the best day of my life supporting the Villa. And my mind obviously immediately harked back to the playoff final. But I think with the playoff final, there was a sense of just regaining a status that we knew
Yeah.
the club should have had. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So whereas this feels like something that was completely unattainable. Like you think of where we were 6 months or so ago, like going back into sort of before the World Cup break when I first came in. And I think this run to this day feels like, as you say, just this momentous challenge that we've conquered this mountain that seemingly couldn't be conquered, that felt like a pipe dream. And I think the playoff final was more of a we have to put this club back where it belongs kind of thing. But
Yeah.
this season we've put the club somewhere where we never even dreamt. Obviously, in the not so distant future, we knew that this was a realistic objective, but to do it in this kind of manner, going from 16th, I think it was like, wow, we've really done something here that I don't think we've ever really seen before. And I think for that reason, I mean, the playoff final will always be special, and it always holds like a very, like when you watch those post-match clips of Dino and the guys, like it's incredible. But today, there was just a different kind of magic about it, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. The thing is with the playoff final for me, I genuinely went into that game expecting a win. I know that sounds crazy, but I didn't force it, because it was impossible. Villa had to win. Villa couldn't lose because God knows where we would be right now if we did. So we had to win that game. Whereas with this one, obviously we had to win it to get European football, but
Yeah.
the club wasn't on the line. It's just the plans have been accelerated, which make it that much sweeter, really, doesn't it? And as I said to you before, mate, people who have listened to the podcast would have known, and people who I speak to after Chelsea away, I said that this was doable. Whether I believed it or not is a completely different thing. But here we are with potential trips to anywhere from Switzerland to Austria, Kazakhstan, Turin. Like it's amazing. It is amazing. And you know, you spoke about it the other day, mate, didn't you? Like the confidence. You went into the Spurs game expecting a win. Now we may not have necessarily expected it today, but it's the faith that we have in these players, the faith that the manager gives the players, and the faith the manager gives us. It's unparalleled, isn't it, mate? Because you know, you look at that team, and I do just want to say very briefly, Luca Dean is not a bad footballer. Like, he's not as bad as a lot of people try to make him out to be. Of course, it would have been brilliant with Alex Moreno in the side. That is as full strength as it gets. And, you know, these are players that have gone toe-to-toe with Arsenal, toe-to-toe with Manchester City, beat Newcastle. What a season they've had. Done the double on Brighton. Like, when that lineup came out, mate, again, I was bricking it, but there's that, like, these are the guys. These are the guys now, and they've risen to that challenge, haven't they?
Yeah. It's amazing how, you know, it's not just a confidence in winning games, it's a confidence in starting well. Like, you know, that I sort of went into I went into the game with good faith that, okay, we'll start well in the first 15 minutes because we really do at Villa Park. And, you know, so it proved like we had that amazing start. And from there, it was a bizarre game, don't you think?
Yeah,
like the way it flowed and the way it felt. And I felt that even like when we were 2-1 up, it kind of felt that like I didn't feel good about like it was a really weird, and again, like a really just bizarre refereeing performance, like decisions that I couldn't believe went against us. But then again, like there were decisions where like they went against Brighton. I was like, what is going on? Just a bizarre refereeing performance, and just the kind of
Coote.
Yeah. And
we've got history with him.
Yes, exactly. Just to like, and that it kind of felt the same after the Spurs game. Like, it's like I can't even sit here and say in good faith that, you know, like we were Brighton have been, because I thought there were moments where Brighton, like there was moments where I remember Matoma running down the wing and Dougie came over, like 2 hands on the back, and just flat out pushed him over, and the referee didn't give it. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I was like, that's a. I mean,
and he was already on a yellow.
Yes, exactly. And it's like if I was sat in the Doug Ellis, I would be livid right now, livid. But yeah, just the fact that like they were like having a party basically. You had all the Brighton fans in there like matching t-shirts and everything like that. Like their season was done. And I just want to give like some props to Brighton actually, because watching them up close, they play some phenomenal football. Like I didn't really appreciate just how good of football. So we've seen it on TV and stuff like that, but when you see it up close, you realize just how like not many teams come to Villa Park and like have it that end to end and play through our press like that. They played really well. And the one thing, like, for them to match our intensity, given that this game effectively meant nothing to them, like that's really impressive, I thought. And I just wanted to give them some praise for that. And I just thought it meant for this really basketball type end to end game. And yeah, it just was a bizarre one. But I think as the game went on, it felt like we were going to come out on the right side of it, and it was going to be our day. But yeah, it was a strange match, wasn't it?
It was. I think what was weird about not weird about it, but like I did feel like we were in control the first half more so than the second. We played some really good football, and it was quite clear that Unai had done his homework. And I'm sure you saw the Everton game, mate, the Everton-Brighton game. Out wide, they just got absolutely annihilated, Brighton. They couldn't. Every ball that Everton played, long ball out into that space behind the wing backs, and that is a space that JJ operated in phenomenally today. 2 assists on his birthday. Should have had a goal as well. He'll have to take that up with Leon for overhitting that pass. I think Leon was going to shoot. I think he was going to shoot, and then he spotted JJ at the last minute and did the right thing in sort of putting on a plate for him. But he'd already clearly physically prepared to shoot because he rifles it at JJ. But JJ was phenomenal. JJ was absolutely phenomenal. Had the chance to make history, as we mentioned in the preview, but I'll have to do some digging and see if anyone's ever assisted twice on their birthday and it also simultaneously been on the last day. That'd be interesting to know. But I don't have a bad word to say about anyone, and I feel like as well, while we're at it, we have to give Leon Bailey the props because the ball he plays to JJ for the Watkins goal, mate, you must have had such a good view of that in the Trinity.
Yes.
Because from where I'm almost at eye level on the whole. I'm sort of in line with the crossbar, so I could see him play the ball, and I didn't. To me, at least, you have to tell me. I didn't think JJ was making it. I thought that Adam Webster had it covered. But what did that look like? Because JJ, he shouldn't have got to that, surely.
Mate, I thought I didn't celebrate the goal. I didn't celebrate because I didn't. Something felt really weird about the goal. I was like that. I don't think that's going to stand because was it John? John won the ball, and I was like, "Oh, that challenge felt a bit hard." And then I could have sworn that JJ played the ball forward to Ollie, which I was like, that's him offside, right? So I stood up and my hands were just on my head like this, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then it just stood, and I was like, I don't know, that moment as well just sort of contributed to it. I was like, I kind of regret that now, but something just felt odd about the goal. And that
checked it for a while.
Yeah, and you sort of mentioned with Webster and everything, I was like, I thought he was going to get there, and JJ got there. I was like, is Webster stopped because something's happened? What has gone on? But yeah, we did really well. That goal came at a really important time because obviously they were getting back into it. They'd already drawn level once and then had that short half. Undav scores. That's then short half. We then basically run up the other end and score. And then obviously Brighton pull one back again. God, that Highline. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Oh, that is honestly to God. You know what? I want to say one thing because I've criticised the officials. I feel so sorry for linesmen at Villa Park. I think it might be one of the worst, because I know I do, because they are put in a position where they are so visibly confused when they see a ball go through and they think it's offside. They want to but they've got this directive where you can see they kind of want to put their flag up and they don't, and they have to wait, and then when they put it up, they get absolute pelters, but this is kind of what they're told to do, and I don't think they're really clear on when they need to do it and when they don't, and I think sometimes it means that they're not quick enough to put it up when they should do, and I just think they've sort of been dealt this quite impossible directive, and I kind of feel sorry for them a little bit. But yeah, that Highline is working. I don't think it's going to work against everybody. I think we do need to maybe a little bit cautious about when we deploy it. But yeah, I mean, my God, the pass out from the back I can kind of deal with, except it's when Emi Martinez has got the ball, because my God, that fella can't.
There was a few times today. Letting it run across his goal. And
yeah, I mean, he on the short 10, 15-yard passes that he can deal with it. But it's when he's going long, I don't think he's got it in his locker consistently. I also feel for Leon Bailey, because I feel like he's the outball so often that you think we play that curved ball up the touchline to him and he's pinned up against the left back, and it's he's not going to come out on he's not that player. He's just we're sending Leon Bailey up for headers with this Stupinian who's just munching him in the air every time.
Colwell as well at times.
Yeah, and it's just that we need to. I think I remember watching it and I was when we talk about the right wingers that we're interested in, we need to factor in that that's clearly going to be a big outball for this side in Unai's sort of system, is that you rely on these balls either up the wing or from a centre-back with the winger pinged up against the full-back to then bring others into play. And it's you need to have a winger that's capable of doing that. And if you want also skillful coming inside shooting wingers, then you're asking for a really specific profile there, aren't you?
You're asking for a big right winger, which isn't Asensio and it's not Barnes.
Yeah.
Who's obviously played on the side.
The two players we've been linked with. So, I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Barnes will be available for a discounted rate, I'm going to imagine, based off of the outcome of today's games.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's, I almost don't want to talk about the game because the game doesn't matter now. It's the outcome. Like, and if people want us to talk about the game, we could do that tomorrow. Like, if people really want us to dive into this. But no, I do think we do need to, as you rightfully said, mate, I think we need to give the props to Brighton. They were brilliant. The fans came out in the masses. Roberto De Zerbi's, wow. Like, I mean, like the changes he made at half time as well really kept us on our toes. But I'm just like, it's transfer rumor season now. It's just going to be full on. That is all you guys are getting. That is all you would just get. You're getting some wonderful content. Because I think the names are going to be quite exciting. And I know since we've last spoken, mate, Asensio is sort of in talks with PSG. We shouldn't be surprised. This is going to happen. We are going to, there's going to be a certain caliber of players that we're targeting that still maybe would rather go and take that Qatari money, which is understandable. However, the one thing I feel like this kind of got lost in the last transfer rumor mill. I feel like some people kind of lost their heads with us when we were talking about like Lanzini and Barnes and these kind of players. Unai Emery has my full trust. The Harvey Barnes fans were out in full force on me. They really were. Whoever Emery signs has my unequivocal, unconditional, unwavering support.
Yeah.
Because look at Alex Moreno. No one had heard of him. Like, the players that we're going to, whether it is a world-class player in Asensio, which, Asensio has the potential. Like, Liverpool wanted Asensio years ago. Burst onto the scene at Real Madrid, won 3 Champions Leagues, hampered with injuries and all that kind of stuff for people who don't know. Asensio is a world-class talent. Whether it's that kind of player we're targeting or your Alex Morenos of the world, it doesn't matter because we have an elite coach. We have what he's managed to sort of wrangle out of these boys, mate. Like, we were sat here 6 months ago, genuinely contemplating if John McGinn was good enough to play for Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Steven Gerrard gaslit us into thinking that John McGinn was a bad footballer. And we're not the only ones. It was literally most of you. And that's not like, I'm not like atting anyone or anything like that. Like, a lot of us genuinely didn't think John McGinn was good enough, and that's fine. But this is what elite managers do.
Yep.
They take the players they have and they make them better. And he's already got so much out of the squad he's had, and he's only added Moreno and Duran, which, if we're being honest, isn't his signing.
Yep.
We're in for an exciting summer, mate. You and I. Transfer rumor mills. It's going to be flowing, mate.
Mate, it's crazy. It's crazy. I can't believe, I just pulled it up now. The draw date for the first qualifying round of the Europa Conference League, which don't get me wrong, I don't think Villa are involved in at that stage. But still, it has a big effect. It shapes who'll be in the tournament, who we can be drawn against. It's the 20th of June.
Yeah. Bro, that's it's
3 weeks away. Less than, it's the 28th. It's three weeks, and the competition starts. It's like, we've got the draw date for the final qualifying round. It's the 24th of July, so less than 2 months away. This is all going to come around really, really quickly, and we need to be, I think, as a club, get this done early doors. We've been very good at that. And be shrewd. Like, I don't think we just need to bulk out the squad. I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's not necessarily going, okay, we need to improve upon you, because we have a fantastic squad, and I don't think we want to tinker. I'd make maybe 2 or 3 additions to the starting 11.
2 or 3?
Yeah.
I think we need 6 players.
I think we need 6 players added to the squad. I think in terms of the players that were on the pitch today, you're going into next season, you'd have maybe a different player in the wide areas. You could maybe have, like, I don't know, we've sort of seen what Moreno can do at left back. And I think we've seen that, I mean, I don't think Cash crossed the the halfway line in the second half today.
No.
So I think if Moreno's going to be flying forward, you need a more defensively minded right back, a la Juan Foyt, who played right back at, he's a sort of centre back come right back that played there at Villarreal. So it's like, I think maybe that's the kind of profile of right back that you want. So maybe there's a change there. But in terms of like, you then need someone to support Ollie who's going to come in. You need someone that I think we need another 8. I think we need another, as I said, another right back, another winger. And so it's like, we'd like a backup goalie, I think. So it's like, they're your 5 or 6 signings that we need.
This is a whole video, mate. This is a whole video.
Yeah.
Don't you guys worry.
There's so much to discuss, mate. I'm so excited.
I just can't believe it, mate. We're going on a European tour. I can't believe it. I've got the an updated Pots graphic up as well, or I did. Scroll past it. Twitter refreshed. Absolute nightmare. One of the only times you'll get me checking out ABFC Faithful's timeline. While I do look for this, though, would like to give a shout out to Lewis, who is a listener of the podcast, came up to me at the whole end and said he really loves the show. So, Lewis, you're a legend, mate. Made my day. Probably more than Milligan Europe, actually. Top guy. And got to give a shout out as well to Max and Bay, who love the podcast. They'll be listening to this on their way to celebrate tomorrow in Brighton by seeing some family. So shout out to Max and Bertie. Right, I've got it up here. I think La Liga still hasn't finished, has it, Dan? Is there one more week of fixtures in La Liga?
Yes.
So this isn't like final, because there's some other European leagues that haven't finished either. I'm looking at the Bulgarian league, the Croatian league. Although I saw Hajduk Split one. With Lovre Kalinic as a league champion. Can you believe it? Shout out to Lovre, man. Get him on the podcast. So yeah, there are still teams that are yet to have, the season hasn't ended for a lot, but currently we're in pot 2. I believe, I could be wrong, so please nobody hold me to this, but from what I've read, I think we come into this in the final playoff round, which is the 24th and 31st. And we are seeded.
Yes.
We're in a pot with Lille, CFR 19 SLU, Partizan Belgrade, PAOK, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Victoria Pleasant, and Bobo Glint. So obviously we can't be drawn against any of these teams. Pot 1 is, as it stands, Juventus, Eintracht Frankfurt, Club Brugge, FC Basel, AZ Alkmaar, Ghent, Dinamo Kiev, and Fenerbahce. Pot 3 is Lech Poznan, Sparta Prague, Astana, Maccabi Haifa, Zigreus. I'm absolutely butchering this one. I'm so sorry, guys.
This is so great.
Zalgiris, Vilnius in Lithuania, HJK Helsinki, famous for some beautiful kits in recent years. AEK Athens, which is where the final will be held, I believe, for this tournament. And Flora Tallinn in Estonia. And then in pot 4, we've got Shamrock Rovers of Ireland, the New Saints from Wales, Olympia Ljubljana in Slovenia, Zrinski Mostar in Bosnia, I think. Correct me for not knowing my Eastern European teams. The Lincoln Red Imps from Gibraltar, Aberdeen in Scotland, Karakicia? I'm so sorry, the Serbians of the world, and Lugano in Switzerland. Where do you want to go? What is the ideal group?
Man.
Should Villa make it to the group from out of the qualifying round? Because
really interesting.
I'm looking at this, and with no disrespect to any of the teams in here, you can't help but feel like Juventus make it to the final, and I would genuinely back us all the way as well. But in terms of a group, I would probably want to avoid Eintracht Frankfurt, despite how easy it is to get to Germany. Frankfurt is probably one I'm going to want to miss. I'm also controversially going to take a pass on Dinamo Kiev. I don't think Ukraine is the kind of place we want to be going. There's part of me that would not like Aberdeen or Shamrock or the New Saints, because you want to go abroad.
Yes.
but also they're going to be easier to get to, so that would be nice. Pot 1, I'm taking Basel because I've heard Switzerland is a beautiful country. Pot 3, Sparta Prague would be good, wouldn't it, mate?
Yeah,
I'm thinking of the night as well.
Yeah,
Sparta Prague would be good. And pot 4, maybe I'm going to go Shamrock Rovers just because of my Irish heritage. And I've never been to Ireland. Go on, but tell me your dream pot, mate.
There's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of good teams. You know that pot 1, like you look at Juve, Eintracht, who obviously won the Europa League, last season. Club Brugge, good side. Alkmaar, just got to the semi-finals of this year's competition. Like Fenerbahce away. Oh, don't fancy that. Yeah, I will take. Let's have a look here. Yeah, Basel sounds really fun, mate. Basel sounds really fun. I think I'll side with you on that one. I think Athens, nice little warm-up trip to the final, scope out the city. You gotta love that, haven't you? What other countries you got? Israel, Kazakhstan, Finland would be nice. Estonia, Lech Poznan would be good. I feel like Poland's always good value.
Yeah.
And then look at that. Look at these teams, man. This is sensational. This is why, honestly, I love this competition. Oh, Bodo Glimt. It's a shame they're in pot 2 because that would be a whole lot of fun. What an amazing club they are. But yeah, I mean, that pot 4 is an absolute free-for-all. There's an absolute free-for-all.
You take what you get from that one, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's another Lugano out in Switzerland as well. But yeah, man, I mean, this is just, what a competition. I'm so excited. I can't wait. We got to go live for the draw or something, mate. Like when this is all formalized, we've got to do something like this and really, well, let's go to town here, pal.
Yeah, 100%. What I love about this, right? Like your top 4, top 6 fans, whatever, will look down on the Europa League, and maybe there is an argument if West Ham win this, does it devalue the tournament? Mm-hmm. That is a debate for another video. It would be nice if Fiorentina would win it, but the fact West Ham can make it to a final is interesting. But like a lot of these teams that I've read out, like all joking aside, were European powerhouses back in the day. These were teams that were regularly competing in the Champions League until Western Europe got all the money and essentially kicked out all of the Eastern European teams. And all, with all of the formats changing and all that kind of stuff. There is European pedigree in most of these sides here, which
you got to look at, mate. You got to look at the teams that we beat on the way to 1982, which we have as like the biggest success in our club's great history. We played Zurich, BFC Dynamo out of Germany. We then beat Dynamo Kiev in the quarters, Anderlecht in the semis, and then Bayern in the final. So you've got a run of like 4 teams there.
Exactly. All from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
All from some interesting places which you wouldn't normally, you wouldn't go to Ukraine. There's a war, but you wouldn't go to Ukraine if there wasn't a war. It's not a place. It's not high on many people's list. So this is what's got me excited about the Conference League and the Europa League as well, because this, is it maybe a way to still allow bigger teams to, get into a form of European competition? Absolutely. But I'm looking at this, mate, and this is vintage. This is brilliant. If Villa can add this trophy to the Arsenal, if we can win a trophy, first of all, unreal. If it's a European trophy, even better. But mate, all this is pointing towards a Juve Villa final in Athens. That is going to be absolutely biblical. That is, mate, I don't want to get too carried away. There's tears in my eyes already.
Stop it.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the sesh in Athens? Man, I'm getting excited. This is a good note to end the podcast on, I think. This is a good note.
I love this. I love it. I'm so excited. We're not even in the competition yet.
and with this is exciting.
It's amazing. I literally texted my family. I was like, right, book flights to Athens. And I was like, wait, I should probably wait until we qualify for the competition first before I start thinking about how we're going to win it. But that's what today's all about, man. If you can't dream now, then when can you?
Yeah. You just got to find the refundable hotels. That's what you got to do. We've got to get that final hotel booked, refundable deposit. And if all else fails, this is something that we can look back and laugh on.
Love it, mate.
Man, this is just the beginning, mate. That's the thing. This is just the beginning. And the people who were obviously fortunate enough to sort of remember the UEFA Cup days and the European nights that Villa have had, which people will have way better memories than you or I, because we'd have been about 11 or 12 at the time. I think most people remember going to that Moscow game at home. If you ask Villa fans of our age, that's like what we remember of European nights. There's a whole new generation now of Villa fans that get to experience this, which is magical. This is what it's all about. So any of the older listeners, let us know in the comments down below your favourite European night. We'd love to know. Also, let us know who you'd want in a group. What is your ideal group from the teams that we've just listed?
Yeah.
Lewis, I expect to see him in the comments as well. He said he'd be in the comments. So yeah, guys, this season has been mad, especially for Dan and I on the channel. So while it's closing out, we would just like to give you guys a massive shout out, because again, it feels like each season we're taking bigger steps, and there's more of you than ever that have joined us on this journey. And you know, there's a lot of hard work put in from Dan and I, and Charlotte, who's helped us out before as well. And with things getting bigger, we're gonna need some help. So keep your eyes peeled. And maybe Dan and I will be looking at bringing someone in and helping us. But yeah, if anyone has any experience with that, let us know. If you're new, subscribe. If you haven't, it's free, and you're gonna want to be on this journey with us, because this is mental, mate. This is absolutely mental. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.